friends. Okay, so today we are discussing Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz, third chapter, which is imagination, the first key to your success mechanism. Okay? So imagination plays a far more important role in our lives than most of us realize. That's what this whole chapter is going to be about. And he talks about how some guy came to him and basically his family made him come. He's about 40 years old. He thought he was ugly, funny looking. He thought he was peculiar looking and not like other people. He thought his family was embarrassed of him. But basically he had a classical Roman type nose and his ears were a little bit bigger, but nothing that would attract more attention than other people with similar ears. So basically it was all in his head. Whoa. Okay. And then he only an understanding of the fact that his imagination had wrought such havoc with his self-image that he had lost sight of the truth. Okay. His imagination alone was responsible for his misery. His imagination had set up automatic negative failure mechanism within him, and it was operating full blast to his extreme misfortune. Okay. And he was able to gradually realize that the power of his own imagination was responsible for his plight, and he succeeded in building up a true self-image and achieving the confidence he needed by applying creative imagination rather than destructive imagination. So then he's going to go back and talk about creative imagination, and it enters into our every act. So it's not just for the poets and the singers and the songwriters and things like that. It's not just the creative people. It's every act. For imagination sets the goal picture which our automatic mechanism works on. We act or fail to act not because of will, as is so commonly believed, but because of imagination. Okay, that's super important. For imagination sets the goal picture which our automatic mechanism works on. We act or fail to act not because of will, as so commonly believed, but because of imagination. So basically, if you think it, then it's true. If you think you're going to fail, you think you're not going to make it, then you're going to fail. That's what he's going to get at. So a human being always acts and feels and performs in accordance with what he imagines to be true about himself and his environment. So if you think you're going to do it, you're going to do it. If you think you're not, you're not. This is a basic and fundamental law of mind, and it is the way we are built. So they're going to call this the law of mind. And basically then they're going to start talking about hypnotized subjects. And witnessing is the normal, what you're witnessing when someone's under hypnosis and they're doing all kinds of stuff. You're witnessing the normal operating processes of the brain and nervous system. And so basically if you tell them they're in the North Pole, not only will they appear cold, but they're going to shiver and they're going to react. Their body's actually going to react physically as if they were cold, and goose pimples will develop. Okay, and then let's see, your nervous system, this is huge. This is huge. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between an imagined experience and a real experience. In either case, it reacts automatically to information which you give it from your forebrain. Your nervous system reacts appropriately to what you think or imagine to be true. This is huge. Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's just in your mind, your body's going to act and react physically to it, which could be why some people, when they stress themselves out about something that hasn't even happened, start having health problems. Okay, Dr. Theodore Xenophon Barber, so phenomena of his hypnosis, right? And he writes in the Science Digest. So basically he writes this. We found that hypnotic subjects were able to do surprising things only when convinced that the hypnotist's words were true statements. This is huge. You have to be convinced. It cannot be something you're phoning in. So when the hypnotist has guided the subject to the point where he is convinced that the hypnotist's words are true statements, the subject then behaves differently because he thinks and believes differently. So you got to be convinced. Then you're going to start behaving differently, and it's based on what you actually think and believe to be true. That's, in a nutshell, if I had to stop here, that would be it. Okay, so belief can bring about such unusual behavior and changes in people and how they act in life and how they carry themselves and how they live their lives. Okay, so yeah, so convincing and what you're convinced to be true changes your behaviors. A little reflection will show you why it is a very good thing for us that we do feel and act in according to what we believe or imagine to be true. Basically, self-preservation, right? I mean, your body is supposed to be built so that you don't kill yourself. Okay, so the human brain and nervous system are engineered to react automatically and appropriately for the problem and the challenges in the environment. Okay, and then he has this grizzly bear example on a trail, and basically you go into fight or flight, right? And the person's going to want to flee, and it triggers bodily mechanisms which soup up the muscles so that he can run faster than ever before. His heartbeat is quickened, adrenaline is a powerful muscle stimulant is poured into the bloodstream. All bodily functions, not necessarily to running, are shut down. Basically, if you're fighting off like a tiny little bacteria, your body's like, yeah, that can wait. This is more important, right? It's self-preservation. The stomach stops working and all available blood is sent to the muscles. Breathing is much faster and the oxygen supply is to the muscles is increased manifold. So anything that's not necessarily necessary for you running away from this bear is X'd. It's off the table. Okay, all of this, of course, is nothing new. Most of us learned it in high school. Here's the follow-up point. It's huge. Here, what we have not been so quick to realize, however, is that the brain and nervous system, which reacts automatically to the environment, is the same brain and nervous system which tells us what the environment is. Okay, so think about that. Okay, the reactions of the man meeting the bear are commonly thought of as due to emotion rather than to ideas. Yet, it was an idea. It was that information received from the outside world and evaluated by the forebrain, which sparked the so-called emotional reactions. Okay, so it was an idea that, oh my gosh, there's a bear, fear. Oh my gosh, there's a bear, I need to get the heck out of here. It was an idea, and then the emotions. So that's what he's saying. Ideas come before emotions. Thus, it was basically idea or belief, which was a true causative agent rather than emotion, which came as a result. In short, the man on the trail reacted to what he thought or believed to be, what he thought or believed the environment to be, okay? And then he talks about like your whole body and your sense organisms give you all this data, and then in the final analysis, all this mental images is what we are given a mental image based on all of our senses and what we evaluate the environment to be. So you act, feel, not according to what things are really like, but according to the image your mind holds of what they are like. You have certain mental images of yourself, your world, and the people around you, and you behave as though these images were true, the reality rather than the things they represent. And think about this. If you've ever been with somebody who's like super afraid of heights and you aren't, I'm not afraid of heights. And when I'm around them, I can see their whole body changing and they get so nervous and afraid. And it does not affect me at all because I'm not afraid of falling. I can die just as easily, but for some reason I might not have a healthy fear of falling, right? But that enabled me to go all the rock climbing and tree climbing that I used to do. Okay, so now if you had not met a real bear, but a movie actor dressed as a bear costume, or if you met a big shaggy dog and you thought it was a bear, you would react automatically to what you believe to be true concerning yourself and your environment. So basically you would have had the same, or he, not you, because you're not in the example, but you would have had that same, or he would have had that same reaction to his environment. It follows that if our ideas and mental images concerning ourselves are distorted and unrealistic, then our reaction to our environment will likewise be inappropriate. So basically, if your ideas and mental images of yourself are the dog or the fake actor dressed in a bear suit, you're gonna make an inappropriate reaction. You're not gonna do what is, I wanna say logical, but you kind of get the gist. Okay, so why not imagine yourself successful? Realizing that our actions, feelings, and behaviors are the result of our own images and beliefs gives us the lever that psychology has always needed for changing personality. It opens a new psychological door to gaining skill, success, and happiness. So they're going to start talking about mental pictures. So mental pictures offer us an opportunity to practice new traits and attitudes, which otherwise we could not do. This is possible again because your nervous system cannot tell the difference between an actual experience and the one that is vividly imagined. So you start making these mental pictures and you practice new traits and attitudes, and it's just as real as if you had actually been doing it, doing that new successful behavior that you want. If we picture ourselves performing in a certain manner, it is nearly the same as an actual performance. Mental practice helps make perfect. Okay, awesome. Now he's going to start talking about a bunch of examples. So psychologists are a vandal. He has a throwing darts at a target practice, and basically they have this pretty close to the same results of people who actually practice in real life. And then they have the sinking the basketball free throws. One group, they measure on the first day and the last day. One group practiced for 20 days, and they improved 24%, right? They practiced 20 minutes a day, and they improved 24%. The second group, they measured on the first day and the last day, and they didn't do anything in between for the 20 days, and they didn't improve at all, like no improvement. The third group, they measured them on the first and last day, and they didn't touch a basketball, but they envisioned it 20 minutes a day of just shooting. And anytime they envisioned themselves missing, they recorrected that shot until they saw it go into the hoop. And they improved by 23%. So like 1% less than the people who actually physically touched the ball. Okay, and then there's another example about Joseph Phillips wrote an article in Reader's Digest, the Rotarian, April 1955, the chess. So chess, they call it a game. And basically a great chess champion, Capablanca, and he lost the championship to some obscure player named Alkine. But basically that guy, the obscure player Alkine, for 3 months he played chess only in his mind, building up steam for the moment when he would meet the championship. So basically he took himself out to the country, he stopped smoking and drinking, and he did calisthenics, like he worked on his physicalness, right? So he would be alert and alive and just in good health, but he practiced for 3 months just visualizing kicking this guy's butt, and he did. And they were like, where did this guy come from? He wasn't even a threat. So and then there's other guy, mental pictures can help you sell more goods. So Charles B. Roth wrote a book, How to Make $25,000 a Year in Selling. Mind you, this is really old stuff, but the concept is the same. And basically he said it's something called role playing. It's not magic, it's role playing, and you should know about it because if you will let it, it will help you double your sales. So simply imagining yourself in various sales situations and then solving them in your mind until you know what to say and what to do whenever the situation arises in real life. And he said that football field people will call it skull practice. So basically running over the plays in your mind, running it over in your mind. And you're going to come up with talking to a customer, and they're going to raise questions or objections or whatever, and you're going to just prepare beforehand by imagining yourself playing those out and coming up with the best answer. Then when you're put into that opportunity with the client, you'll have the actual answers that they need, because not all no's in sales are actual no's. Some of them are no, but some of them are like, I don't want to do this right now. But then if you actually have what they need, it's going to be a good match. William Moulton Marston, a well-known psychologist, recommended what he called rehearsal practicing to men and women who came to him to help in looking for job advancements. So basically, you practice your job interview, everything you think they're going to ask you, and when you get to the job interview, you're more likely to be able to answer any of the questions spontaneously, even if they're nothing you practice, because you've already been rehearsing the interview in your mind. And then he also says, why not select the right role? Select the role of a successful person and rehearse that. And then he also points out that, if you don't have the experience and everything, you can bluff and you can get the job, but you will get fired. So he's saying, there's only one way I know to project your practical knowledge beyond your present occupation, and that is rehearsal planning. So like if you start in an entry level position and you want to move up, you want to move to a different department or do something that they're doing, find out what they're doing as much as you can and start figuring out what skills you have that you could apply and do that so that when you do get the job, you're successful in it. Okay? So this is not all like just imagine you get the job and you get the job. Like you can get fired if you're not doing everything else you need to get the job. Okay, so Arthur Schnabel, the world famous concert pianist, basically he said, I practice in my head. He didn't like practicing in real life on the spending hours on the piano. And then C.J. Kopp of Holland, he said, before you start a composition, you should first go over it in your mind, memorize it, and play it in the mind before ever touching fingers to the keyboard. So like they start going through all these sports and pianos and everything else, and sales and job interviews, basically applications of life. And then Ben Hogan, he practices each shot perfectly in his head before he actually goes up and hits the ball. And this is important. He feels himself performing the perfect follow through, and he feels himself, the club head strike on the ball. Like he feels it. It's not just like a so-so picture. I was gonna say shady, but not shady. Like it's not a foggy. It's not a blurry picture. Like he feels it as if it's real. And then he just goes up and he does the shot. And he said he calls muscle memory to carry out the shot just as he imagined it. Okay. Alex Morrison, a well-known golf teacher in the world, he said 90% of the golf game is mental side, and the physical is 8%, and the mechanical is 2%. And then he would have some people come, and he'd have them sit down in their easy chair. He would demonstrate the swing, and then he'd show them the mechanics of everything, but then he'd make them sit 5 minutes a day and just imagine it and feel it and like see themselves doing it. And then a whole bunch of people's scores went up in golf. And then he said this, and he had the 7 Morrison keys, but he said this: you must have a clear mental picture of the correct thing before you can do it successfully. And that's not just for golf, that's like for everything. Johnny Bulla, a well-known professional golfer, so he said that having a clear mental image of just where you want the ball to go and what you want it to do is more important in golf than form. Most of the pros have one or more serious flaws in their form, yet they manage to shoot good golf. So his theory was that if you would picture the end result and see the ball going where you wanted it to go, and you have the confidence to know that it was going to go do whatever you wanted to do, your subconscious would take over the rest and direct your muscles correctly. So basically he was saying if your grip is wrong, if your stance is not the best, your subconscious would still take care of that by directing your muscles to do whatever necessary to compensate for the error in form. Okay, so that was his theory. And then Napoleon, he practiced soldiering in his imagination for years before he even went on a actual battlefield. He imagines himself as a commander and drew up maps in the island of Corsica and calculations and where he would put his defenses. Like he had 400 pages of notes of what he was going to do. Conrad Hilton, he used to play like he was a hotel operator from the time he was a little boy before he ever bought a hotel. Henry J. Kaiser, each one of his business accomplishments was realized in his imagination before it appeared actually. So they start trying to throw out names to let people know, like, these people have done it and look at how successful they were. Because a lot of people are going to just kind of start turning this off. And quite honestly, a lot of people lose their imagination from the time they're a little kid. It gets beaten out of them, which is silly. So it is no wonder that the art of mental picturing has in the past sometimes been associated with magic, right? Like, that's what they're saying. However, the new science of cybernetics gives us an insight into why mental picturing mental picturing produces such amazing results, and shows us that these results are not due to magic, but to natural, normal functioning of our minds and brains, okay? So the mental picturing is going to actually trigger you to do, or your subconscious or your mental, your physical, everything to like line up and go towards that goal. It's a goal-striving mechanism. Cybernetics regards the human brain, nervous system, and muscular system as a highly complex servo mechanism, an automatic goal-seeking machine which steers its way to a target or goal by the use of feedback data and stored information, automatically correcting course when necessary. And as stated earlier, this new concept does not mean that you are a machine, but that your physical brain and body functions as a machine which you operate. Okay, so, and it has to have a target to shoot at. It has to have a clear target to shoot at. And when you do see a thing clearly in your mind, your creative success mechanism within you takes over, and it does its job much better than you could do it by conscious effort or willpower. Okay, and then so you can't just like iron jaw it. You can't just like force it. You have to have all of this working together. But I like what's coming next. Okay, so it's not iron jaw willpower, right? You get the picture, but then you simply relax the strain. You stop trying to do it by strain and effort. You picture to yourself the target you really want to hit, and you let your creative success mechanism take over. But here it comes. Thus, mental picturing the desired end result literally forces you to use positive thinking. Here, boom. You are not relieved thereafter from effort and work. So you don't just get to imagine this stuff and then poof, pixie dust, it's here. You have to imagine it, make sure you have a very clear image about it, that you're not relieved thereafter from effort or work, but your efforts are used to carry you forward to your goal rather than futile mental conflict, which results with you to want and to try to do one thing, but picture yourself doing something else. So a lot of times when you say, I really want to do this, but I can't do this. I really want that, but I can't have that. Like we flip-flop way too much is what it is. So until you get that clear image, imagine if you're telling somebody, well, come here. Oh, no, I can't really go there. Well, come here. No, go. I can't. You keep changing the direction. You're never going to get anywhere. So once you have that clear image and you can like smell it and feel it and taste it and touch it, like you have all the vivid parts of it, then you start applying your work. You start applying motion. And even if something doesn't work, you're going to be directed with more action and more motion forward, and you're going to hit your goal. That's kind of what it's getting at. So people who are being, oh, that's just like thinking in your head and it's not going to, yeah, there's more to it. Okay, this same creative mechanism within you can help you achieve your best possible self if you will form a picture of in your imagination of the self you wanted to be and see yourself in the new role. So basically, he's also saying regardless of the therapy you use, before a person can change, he must see himself in a new role. Okay. You have to imagine it. And then he starts talking about Edward McGoldrick. So he helps alcoholics cross a bridge from the old self to the new self. He has them close their eyes. He has them do a mental motion picture and see themselves as sober and responsible persons, see themselves enjoying life without liquor. And basically they're saying how there's like a big change in people once they start imagining themselves as that person. And it's not necessarily immediate today or tomorrow, but it's going to come, because basically what you're doing is you're planting all these seeds and thoughts in your mind. And remember, your mind isn't going to forget anything. And over time, it's going to start going to those minds, and you're going to be using those behaviors and those actions. Okay, so this one, yeah, San Francisco, some mental patients. So Dr. Harry M. Grayson and Dr. Leonard B. Ollinger. So they took 45 men hospitalized as neuropsychiatrics, and they gave them a personality test, right? And then they told them, okay, now we're going to have you take this personality test a second time, but this time answer the questions as they would, as if they were a typical well-adjusted person on the outside, okay? 3/4 of them turned in an improved test performance. And in order for these patients to answer the questions as a typical well-adjusted person, they had to imagine how a typical well-adjusted person would act. They had to imagine themselves in that role as a well-adjusted person. And this in itself was enough to cause them to begin to act like and feel like a well-adjusted person. We can begin to see why the late Dr. Albert Edward Wiggum called your mental picture of yourself the strongest force within you, right? Remember Laird Hamilton, like, don't let the voice in between your own two ears be your worst enemy. It's the strongest force within you. Okay, and then the aim of self-image psychology, our aim is to find the real self and to bring our mental images of ourselves more in line with the objects they represent. Okay, so it's common knowledge among psychologists that most of us underrate ourselves, we shortchange ourselves, and sell ourselves short. Actually, there is no such, and second thing, there's no such thing as a superiority complex, and those people are basically suffering from feelings of inferiority, and they try to like make a fictitious persona and cover it all up so that you don't find out how inferior and insecure they feel, right? So when you see a big butt head, you know that they get their own set of issues. Okay, how can you know the truth about yourself? How can you make a true evaluation? It seems to me that here psychology must turn to religion. Okay, and so remember from like last time where he said, okay, whoops, not there. Here, this is what he said before. Science has now confirmed what philosophers, mystics, and other intuitive people have long declared. Every human being has literally been engineered for success by his creator. Every human being has access to a power greater than himself, and this means you. So that's what he's going to start getting back to, right? So that's where he's saying that they got to go and turn to religion. And they talk about your creator. And he says, if we really believe in an all-wise, all-powerful, all-loving creator, then we are in a position to draw some logical conclusions about ourselves, about man. In the first place, such an all-wise, all-powerful creator would not turn out inferior products any more than a master painter would paint inferior canvases. And, like you wouldn't make an automobile that had failures in it, right? So the fundamentalists tell us that man's chief purpose and reason for living is to glorify God. The humanists tell us that the man's primary purpose is to express himself fully. So it looks like two different things, but what he's saying is his premise is that God is loving as a loving creator and has the same interest in his creation that an earthly father would have in his children. Then it seems to me that the fundamentalists and the humanists are saying the same thing. Excuse me. What brings more glory, pride, and satisfaction to the Father than seeing his offspring do well, succeed, and express to their full abilities and talents? And have you ever sat by a father at a football game, when his son is like the football star, like, you've got all this pride and you're like, so he's basically saying it's bringing glory to God when his creations, man, is doing well and using all of their gifts and their talents. So he's saying it's all that. But if for some crazy reason you don't think you're built perfect, right? That you were built deliberately engineered for success, then you really have to go back and figure out where you got those beliefs, because they're wrong. They're just wrong. Everybody has their own gifts and talents. Okay. So, and then Dr. Leslie D. Weatherhead said, if we have in our minds a picture of ourselves as fear-haunted and defeated nobodies, we must get rid of that picture at once and hold up our heads. That is a false picture, and the false must go. Okay? God sees us as men and women through whom he can do great work. He sees us as already serene, confident, and cheerful. He sees us not as pathetic victims of life, but masters of the art of living, not wanting in sympathy, but imparting help to others, and therefore thinking less of ourselves, and full not of self-concern, but of love and laughter and desire to serve. So you're very confident in and of yourself, and you are helpful and serving to others, right? Because basically, true happiness comes from not being self-centered. And if you don't know that, you'll find that in lots of philosophy and books and all kinds of stuff. Okay, let us look at the real selves, which we are in the making. We are in the making the moment we believe in their existence. So the real self, right? Once you imagine that you're going to become your real self, it's started. It has begun. You have begun making your real self. Or actually, really, it's that you're coming in line with your real self. Okay, here. We must recognize the possibility of change. Okay, so we must say, okay, we can change, and believe in the self we are now in the process of becoming. That old sense of unworthiness and failure must go. It is false, and we are not to believe in what is false. And so this is, again, that lady, Dr. Leslie D. Weatherhead, and she wrote something, Prescription for Anxiety in the New York Abingdon Press. Okay, so hold the picture of yourself. Okay, here we're at the practice exercise, so we got some more homework. Hold a picture of yourself long and steady enough in your mind's eye, and you'll be drawn forward to it. That was from Dr. Harry Emerson Fosdick. Picture yourself vividly as defeated, and that alone will make victory impossible. Picture yourself as vividly as winning, and that alone will contribute immeasurably to success. Great living starts with a picture held in your imagination of what you would like to do or be, okay? Your present self-image was built upon your own imagination pictures of yourself in the past, which grew out of interpretations and evaluations which you placed upon experience. So basically, something happened, someone yelled at you, told you were stupid, told you were dumb. You put that interpretation and evaluation, you took that as truth, as gospel, and as fact, and you sucked that in. You gave that value and meaning to that experience, okay? So you have to change all of that. So then this is how we're gonna do it. Oh, and so here, now you are to use the same method to build an adequate self-image that you previously used to build an inadequate one. Okay, so 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, where you can be alone and undisturbed. Relax and make yourself as comfortable as possible. Now close your eyes and exercise your imagination. And make sure you're comfortable, but make sure you're not falling asleep, right? This is actually an engaged exercise. Just like when people are doing meditation and they complain that they always fall asleep, they're probably not sitting up or probably not doing something where they can stay engaged in their meditation. Okay, so many people find that they get better results if they imagine themselves sitting before a large motion picture screen and imagining that they are seeing a motion picture of themselves. So you are on the screen. You are the main star of your own movie, okay? The important thing is to make these pictures as vivid and as detailed as possible. You want your mental pictures to approximate actual experience as much as possible. So as much detail as you can, and like see, smell, taste, like you just imagine as much as you can, okay? The way to do this is to pay attention to small details, sights, sounds, objects in your imagined environment. Okay, and one lady did it because she was afraid of the dentist, and it didn't start working until she started like imagining the leather on the chair and the dentist's well manicured nails, you know, like working on the tools and working on her teeth and smelling the antiseptic in the office. So like those kind of details. So details of the imagined environment are all important in this exercise because for all practical purposes, you are creating a practice experience. And if the imagination is vivid enough and detailed enough, your imagination practice is equivalent to an actual experience, like as if you did it for real, okay? That's like a technical term, for real, insofar as your nervous system is concerned. So make sure you're picking up on that. So the imagination has to be vivid enough and detailed enough in your imagination practice so that it can be it's an equivalent to an actual experience as far as your nervous system is concerned. It has to think it's real. Okay, the next important thing to remember is that during this 30 minutes, you see yourself acting and reacting appropriately, successfully, and ideally. It doesn't matter how you acted yesterday. You do not have to have faith that it's going to take place tomorrow. Your nervous system will take care of it in time, but you have to continue to practice it. So see yourself acting, feeling, and being the way you want to be. Do not say to yourself, I'm going to act this way tomorrow. Just say to yourself, I'm going to imagine myself acting this way for now, for 30 minutes today, right now. I'm going to do this now. So be in the present, right? The future will take care of itself if you're doing the homework. Imagine how you would feel if you are already the sort of personality you want to be. If you have been shy and timid, then see yourself moving along among people with ease and poise and feeling good because of it. So another main key that you're going to see if you've like studied a whole bunch or read a whole bunch of other stuff is feeling. You have to feel it. It can't just be something that you're kind of sort of thinking about. You have to be in it. You know when you're at the movie and like something happens and you like jump up or whatever, or maybe you don't, but I do. I might grab the person next to me. Watch out if you sit with me in a movie. Yeah, that kind of thing where you're reacting to it as if it's real. So you got to feel it. You can feel good about it. Make sure everything you're doing, you feel good about it because it's going to be better and actually sinks better into your subconscious, okay? It's like a positive reinforcement. Okay, so this exercise This exercise builds new memories or stored data in your midbrain and central nervous system. It builds a new image of self. After practicing it for a time, you will be surprised to find yourself acting differently, more or less automatically and spontaneously without trying it. And this is as it should be. You do not need to take thought or try when you feel ineffective or inadequate. Like, you don't have to try. That's something that is already in there, and it becomes like routine and automatic. So basically, you keep practicing this, and you will find it will work just as automatically upon positive thoughts and experiences as upon negative ones. Okay, and then he tells us key points to remember here. He gives you like a space to write 5 things. And then case history. List here some experiences out of your past that explain the principles given in your chapter. So basically, he wants you to keep going back to your own self and finding your own experiences that coincide with this, because it's going to help you suck in the information a little bit better. Okay? So wishing everyone a wonderful, super fantastic day, and do something today that your future self will be thankful you did.